if you're daydreaming about just get me out of here, that might be a good flag for you to consider about whether or not you're dealing with burnout. People might think that burnout is associated with stress at work, and there is a mild correlation, but it's not so much the stress. And think about this. If it were, then every ER physician would have burnout, wouldn't they? It's more about how people feel about the stresses that they're encountering. And so back to the ER physician, that might be very stressful work, but if you feel great satisfaction that you're saving lives every day, it can counter the feelings of burnout. My name's Jeff Bjorck. I'm a recently retired clinical psychologist, and I'm really glad and excited to be able to talk to you today about two vitally important concepts for leadership: burnout and rest. Speaking of burnout, it's actually technically not a psychiatric term, but the World Health Organization did list it as occupational burnout, specifically talking about what is happening at work with three general factors. The first is a sense of emotional exhaustion. The second is a sense of detachment from your work, somewhat numbing, possibly cynical. And the third is the absence of feelings of competence, efficacy, or achievement, as though your work is making a difference. Of course, as believers, we want to know about the relevance of any concept in the world to what Scripture has to say. And I believe Scripture does speak about burnout, although I think it says less about burnout per se and more about how to prevent what we'd think of as burnout. But it does speak of burnout. We could start in Exodus 18, when Jethro comes to meet Moses, and he sees that Moses is just trying to judge every single one of the children of Israel's disputes day after day after day, and he basically says, what you're doing is not good. He can see that Moses is just getting wiped out. And so he gives Moses a very, very useful strategy for avoiding burnout in leadership: delegate. He says, delegate some of these processes to other people. Psalm 127:2 speaks of the idea that you get up early and you work late in vain, toiling for food. The idea of you're just working and working and working, and it speaks of it not as a good thing. In Mark 6:31 has another example. Jesus has been working with the disciples all day, and he says, you know what? Let's you guys come together off to a quiet place by yourselves and rest. That was a very important part of how to avoid burnout, because we need fuel. We need food and we need sleep. I believe burnout is increasingly more common in our increasingly technological society, because I believe there are more factors that enable us to try to pretend that we don't have limits. Burnout was more difficult before electric lights, because when the sun went down, you went to bed. You might have had a little candle, but that kept you from stumbling. It didn't keep you up 4 hours doing, working, and writing. So we've discovered electric lights, we've discovered nicotine and caffeine, we've discovered stimulants, and so we are able to cheat sleep, which is the foundation of spiritual formation, and work far more, as though we can be more productive. I think also that we have a culture that encourages us to deny our limitations at the expense of burnout. I believe our expressions in our vernacular show us that. Start out with a self-made man. How could anyone make themselves? I believe God would say, get your own dirt to do it. This person can pull himself up by his own bootstraps. So apparently, if we work hard enough, we can defy gravity. We can work towards win-win situations. Even though a 6th grade education will tell you you can't have a win-win without a lose-lose. You can't be watching me right now and doing something else, which relates to the next vernacular cultural expression, multitask. If you think you can actually multitask, try this. Count backwards from 100 by threes in your head while reciting the alphabet out loud forward. The bottom line is, we can switch from task to task rapidly. The younger you are, the faster you can do it. It can give the illusion of multitasking, but humans can literally only do one thing with active attention at a time. So our culture, I believe, increasingly is encouraging us to deny our limits, when I believe instead what we should do is embrace our limits as God's gifts. And if we embrace our limits, we also drop our anxiety and we drop our guilt. Let's return to Mark 6:31. The disciples have been working all day with Jesus. He says, let's come apart to a quiet place to rest. And so even when Jesus put the rest off for a little bit, he still made sure his disciples got rest that very night. Proverbs 23:4 says, "Don't work to accumulate wealth, but be discerning enough to desist." Make it your goal to get up from your desk and go home in the middle of a task every night. If we get up in the middle of a task and say, I am having the discernment to desist and stop, we get there the next morning refreshed, have our best energy, finish that task in possibly half the time it would have taken us the night before, and go on with our day. Focus on your identity as a child of God in your position. Your vocation is just one of the many things you are doing as a child of God, a God who loves you and is not having his love contingent on how successful or efficacious you are at the latest deadline. Recreation, if done right, is an act of worship because God designed us to have loves and joys and things that give us energy. The quickest way to get burnout is to have a job that saps your strength versus that energizes you. And in life, sometimes all jobs sap our strength, which is why it's even more important to think about play as part of our stewardship for self-care as we avoid burnout so that we can work well. If we're supposed to love the Lord our God with all our heart, soul, mind, and strength, we need the most strength we can get. And one of the best ways for that next to sleep and rest is recreation and to pursue hobbies and to pursue activities that bring you joy. And I assure you that if you do those well, it brings God joy. I would define rest as an investment. And the reason I define it that way is because the hair sticks up on the back of my neck whenever somebody says a quite popular expression that you may have heard, to waste time with God. I think of that almost as heretical. It is never a waste of time to be with God. It is an investment. When you think of your devotional life, your prayer times, your times of solitude, those are investments in cultivating your relationship. As Brother Lawrence said hundreds of years ago, our relationship with God takes practice because after all, we can't see him. And so we need to practice his presence. But as we do, our relationship itself with God becomes the source of our rest. In Isaiah 26:3, I believe it says, God will keep you in perfect peace when your mind is stayed on him. And when I think of this rest, I also have a functional definition. Rest is not simply recuperation. Rest is peace, even in the midst of stress. There was a contest for painting a picture of peace. And second prize went to a painting of a beautiful clear glass waterfront with the palm trees reflecting in the water and a lone seagull drifting across the sky as the sun just touched the water. That was second prize. First prize was a picture of a massive, thunderous waterfall. And out from the spray of the waterfall, a gnarled, craggy branch extended just past the spray. And in the hook of a crook was a nest, and on the nest was a mother bird sitting on her eggs in the midst of the waterfall. That is the rest that I believe God invites us to have. Let me leave you with just one thought. I'm sure that many of you are familiar with Psalm 46:10 that says, "Be still and know that I am God." But how many of you have heard that as God being somewhat stern? Perhaps saying, stop talking, I'm in charge. Be quiet and listen to me and know that I am God. Well, I have news for you. Psalm 46:10 in the New American Standard says this, cease striving and know that I am God. Rest in me. I've got this. I will be with you. Underneath are my everlasting arms. You can simply rest in me and have the confidence that I will accomplish my purposes in you as you rest in me.